All right. Good morning, and thank you for taking the time to join us for today's Tech in 20 demonstration of Fortinet SD-WAN and Azure Virtual WAN. Leading today's session is Eric Rockman, Director of Project Engineering, and Pratik Bajaj, Network Architect at Vandis. For those of you who are new to Vandis, we provide managed services and IT solutions to optimize the security and performance of network infrastructures, both on-premise and in the cloud. We design IT solutions to meet each organization's unique needs and goals. And for nearly 4 decades, from mid-market to enterprise clients, Vandis has delivered comprehensive strategies for secure IT infrastructures. A quick reminder before we begin, we are recording today's session. So please mute your computer microphone to eliminate any background noise, but feel free to submit any questions in the chat window or unmute yourself to ask a question. Also, while the demo is running, we'll take a moment to introduce each other and ask you if there's anything in particular that led you to joining today's session and anything that you'd like to learn. And then following today's session, we do invite you to visit our website, vandis.com/events, for a list of other events that you might be interested in. And now I'll turn it over to Pratik.
Thank you, Joanne. Good morning, everyone. Let's jump right in. Gartner released these 2 magic quadrants. One was for the network firewalls, and the second was for your WAN edge infrastructure. As you can see, Fortinet is a leader in both of these magic quadrants. But what's more interesting is that Fortinet is the only vendor using the same product, the FortiGate Next-Gen Firewall. In both these magic quadrants, with Fortinet, you don't need to buy 2 different appliances to use both these features. So if you already are using the FortiGate firewalls in your environment today, you can just enable the secure SD-WAN functionality at no extra cost. There's no additional licensing. Your administrators would be already familiar with the GUI interface, so the learning curve would be relatively small. In September of 2022, Gartner also released the Critical Capabilities document for WAN Edge. This is the report where Gartner described each use case and the rating for capabilities of each vendor. Fortinet has been awarded as the highest rating for a small branch SD branch use case, again, for third year in a row. For the 4th year in a row, Fortinet emerged as a leader in the security-sensitive WAN use case. The remote worker use case is a new one, and it was ranked number 1 for 2nd year in a row. Fortinet also received high rating in part because of the outstanding automation, zero-touch provisioning, and application resilience. A little bit about our partnership with Fortinet. Vandis has a close working relationship with Fortinet for over 20 years. We are their top-level partners. At Vandis, we have a team of expert engineers with numerous certifications across Fortinet solutions portfolio, vis-a-vis firewalls, switching, endpoint, SD-WAN. Jump into a case study. This is a deployment that Vandis did for one of its customers, PM Pediatrics. PM Pediatrics care centers needed a fast, reliable, and a secure way to share and access files. IT teams needed greater visibility and management into networks that spanned across 75+ urgent care centers. The challenge for them was the increased concern to protect PII information, lack of centralized visibility, increased MPLS cost, resulting from expansion of the new branch care centers, branch offices, connectivity, and latency challenges. They came to Vandis, and the solution that Vandis provided was using Fortinet firewalls in conjunction with the Azure Virtual WAN, which allowed them to connect each of their branch locations automatically into the vWAN hub and optimize business-critical application connectivity by intelligent Layer 7 aware routing over redundant pathways, leveraging the Azure Virtual WAN. The CDNs, they were able to connect their branch sites automatically to the closest Azure POP, and this helped them reduce the latency and improve productivity by up to 70%. The result for them was a fast, secure network which protects patient data, reduced network latency, and improved speed and quality of care provided to the patients. These are the 3 areas why Fortinet is the leader in Gartner's Magic Quadrant and why they are the #1 vendor when it comes to secure SD-WAN. It starts with application-driven networking. We provide the broadest application steering with over 5,000 applications. And to do this properly, you need to accurately identify the application. The second is the accelerated convergence. They launched the industry's first SD-WAN capable ASIC. They spent millions of dollars building this custom ASIC, and which uses the routing, security, and SD-WAN features on one single appliance, so that you're getting the best of breed performance and not managing multiple appliances. And third is efficient operations. It's not just talking about simplifying operations, but also making them more efficient. Centralized management allows you to do SD-WAN, firewall policies, manage even your switches and access points from a single pane of glass, which is the FortiManager platform, providing you visibility across all your devices, users, and applications. To kind of add to the previous slide, there are a few more key SD-WAN features. As I said, Fortinet has industry's only custom-built SD-WAN ASIC. They leverage dynamic path selection and self-healing capabilities for enhanced user experience. Cloud on-ramp for efficient SaaS adoption and native integration with Azure V-WAN to secure branch-to-branch and branch-to-data center communication. 5,000 plus applications identified in real-time SSL inspection, and by using FortiManager and FortiAnalyzer in conjunction, it simplifies operations and visibility for your SOC and NOC. A little bit about vWAN, and my colleague Eric Rockman will go into further detail on this, but I'll just cover it quickly. Azure vWAN is a construct which is leveraged by Microsoft using its huge backbone globally, and it enables you as customers to connect your site to the Azure vWAN hub across the globe with different points of presence and CDN nodes. And this basically enables you to leverage Microsoft's huge backbone as your own network rather than traversing the public internet. The result is much lower latency and improved performance. A little bit about Microsoft Azure's Lighthouse program. Microsoft offers managed services through its marketplace. It vets certain MSPs and only a select bunch of MSPs who have been vetted and have been accepted into this program. And Vandis has had the fortune of being accepted into the Microsoft's Lighthouse program. As you can see, you can find our offerings on the Azure marketplace. This is just one of them. All right, that was the slide deck. Thank you very much for listening. And now it's time for demo. I'm going to turn it over to Eric Rockman.
Oh, what this looks like today, we're going to see is this, right? So the architecture is virtual WAN, which is pre-existing. There's a spoke VNet where you run your workloads, and there's a virtual machine sitting in there, and these are VNet peered. And then we have a data center location, which has a FortiGate 60F, and then a workload behind that, right? So what we're going to do today is we are going to build via this automation this connectivity into Azure Virtual WAN, and we are going to configure BGP dynamic routing so that we learn all of the CIDRs that live in Azure, as well as Azure learning the CIDRs that live in the data center. Now, this using virtual WAN is also applicable if you do not have workloads in Azure. So in other words, just multiple data center locations, which is what sort of Pratik alluded to. And all that dynamic routing and BGP and route exchange would all happen within virtual WAN, allowing what virtual WAN calls branch-to-branch connectivity. Right. So today we're going to show you actually branch to Azure connectivity, but the same constructs hold for branch-to-branch connectivity. Right. So we will talk about the spoke VNet, which is here. We will talk about virtual WAN, Center Ave, which is the VPN site. So we're going to be connecting up with IPsec, and then the Azure Function app, which does the automation. Right. So here's what the function looks like. All right, so there is an app service plan for anybody who's done serverless in Azure. There's a storage account where we are going to upload a spreadsheet or a CSV file containing the information about our site, about the vWAN we want to connect to, etc. And you'll see that in a second. There's a key vault where we store the FortiGate API user and serial number of that device that you want to automate. Right, so there's no hard coding of credentials or API tokens inside of the spreadsheet or inside of the code. It's all pulled from an Azure Key Vault. There is the function app itself, which we will look at in a second, and then there's this event grid topic. And what that does is that actually reads, it detects changes in a storage account for this remote sites.csv file, and when it sees a change to that file, it will kick off this automation. Okay, so what you will see here is this is a remote sites file, right? So I will try to make this a little bigger. We are going to connect in today to a virtual WAN in this resource group inside of the East US 2 region. This particular FortiGate has one ISP link. We're going to create a VPN site called Center Ave. This is the device serial number, and this is the device and public IP and port that the automation is going to connect to execute the REST API calls. And here's our BGP router ID, my ASN, whether we want to update BGP or not, the CIDR that we want to advertise into Azure, who the provider is, the speed, and this is just for cosmetics really. The public IP again, the loopback adapter that it's going to create for BGP, the untrust interface, and then the trust interface. Okay, here's an IPsec pre-shared key, and what we will also do is we will export the CLI config, so that if you didn't want this automation to configure your firewall because of you're concerned about it interacting with config that you have there, what it can do is export a CLI config that you can cut and paste during a maintenance window, for example. And that coincides with this flag. Do we want to update this the FortiGate config with REST? And then if we want to update the existing VPN site because of changes you made, such as the loopback IP or the public IP that is connecting back into your data center, right? So we will take that file, but what I want to show you here, and this demo will take about 10 minutes to run, so we will take some questions here. I will show you here what it looks like when it's running. All right, so we'll go to logs, we'll go to file system logs, and we'll say connecting, make sure it's connected, and then we'll upload that file. All right. So here is here's the Azure side of it. So there's that VM that we saw in that diagram, that virtual network that lives in Azure, as well as the virtual WAN. Right. So if you go into virtual WAN and you see VPN sites, there are none connected. If you look inside the FortiGate, you can see that there's only connected routes and static routes. Right. So nothing's been done yet. So here is that remote sites file. So we're going to take that file here. Right, so here's the remote sites file, right? One I just showed you. So we're just going to take that and we're going to say upload. And you could do this all through PowerShell or CLI. So I'm going to take that, put it in there. They overwrite the existing file and say upload. Okay. So now you'll see here, right? It detected that the file was uploaded, right? So it's going to go into all these, and this is normal, right? So there's a storage account that will be dynamically created that will contain the FortiGate config that we are proposing to configure. It will contain a backup file of your existing FortiGate device. And we're dynamically creating that storage account, right? So it says storage account not found, it's creating that storage account inside of that resource group in Azure. And we're basically looking for that site, Center Ave, and we're reading all of the information from that CSV file. Okay, so right here, we're going to actually look for that VWAN object that was specified inside of that CSV file, right? And the REST API endpoint, which is my FortiGate firewall, right? And now we're actually adding the VPN site, right? So this it says here, right, this can take a little while. Please be patient, right? So while we let this run, I will open the floor to any questions about, Azure networking, virtual WAN, this automation, how we do it, why we do it, and other Azure architectures, network architectures that Vandis has implemented for some of our customers.
Anyone, if you have a question, you can unmute your microphone and go ahead and ask the question.
Okay. So if we come back in here, right, you'll see the VPN site was created. Right, it's connected to this virtual WAN hub, so that virtual WAN hub is updating. And here's that site link, right? So that's the public IP address that's on that FortiGate WAN interface. Right, so it's updating. It takes a little bit, and then you will see, if you notice here in the routing monitor, we're still not seeing any connected sites. But what you'll see here is, you'll see there's no BGP config. There's just my local AS and my router ID. You'll see there's no neighbors, no networks advertised, etc. You'll see in policies, right, just normal, Azure normal firewall policies, internal, external, TLS inspection, etc. You'll see there's nothing here referencing Azure. In VPN tunnels, right, you'll see there's no, this is something different, but you'll see there's no VPN tunnels yet to Azure. Okay, and this will all be created by the automation, right? But the first thing it has to do is it has to create that VPN site, which is center Av, and create that VPN site connection, right, which are VWAN constructs. And once that's done, it takes a couple of minutes. You will start to see the firewall being provisioned. Right. In addition, you can see here that I'm unable to connect to the virtual machine inside of Azure, right? Because that tunnel is not up yet. So what I'm going to do.
Right, while we wait, would anyone like to share one of the reasons they joined today's demonstration? Anything in particular that you wanted to see by joining today's presentation? Again, if you'd like to share, you can unmute your microphone and ask your question.
So while we wait, I'll give I'll give you guys some information on some other neat little Azure networking projects that that we've done for customers. So we have also built for all you customers who are interested in adopting Azure, for an additional data center for disaster recovery, even if you want to, let's say, get out of the data center business, right? But you're concerned about the level of effort it takes to build it, maintain it, especially across multiple regions. Vandis has invested significant time and effort into building, full hub and spoke network architectures in Azure with Terraform. So we can literally have you up and running with full data center connectivity across multiple Azure regions in under an hour, right? And that is with a hub with FortiGate firewalls, as well as other security vendors, with multiple peered Azure spoke networks, with full security and east-west inspection, as well as micro-segmentation. So in other words, Azure networking allows you to be very specific about what CIDRs you would like inspected by your firewall. So one of the benefits of Azure, as opposed to a local, a layer 2 VLAN network in your data center, is that Azure is able to direct traffic within a specific subnet, all to a firewall so that it can be inspected and logged and audited. So for example, if you have a web server segment that has 5 web servers, traditionally in the data center, right, those servers talk to each other directly because they're on the same VLAN, right? Now you can use host-based firewalls, you can use third-party products to allow that micro-segmentation, but in Azure, all you have to do is create a route, what's called the UDR, or a user-defined route, inside of a route table that is attached to a subnet, and say that entire network CIDR should be inspected by the firewall, and traffic from web server A to web server B that are sitting, literally one IP address apart on the same network can be inspected by the firewall. So that's east-west plus, right? So micro-segmentation, as well as ingress flows, egress flows, data center flows, are all capable of being inspected when you go to an Azure network architecture, right? And we have built automation around that makes it easy to scale. In other words, if you have a production spoke, and now you want to add a QA or a dev or whatever spoke with workloads in it, all you have to basically do is edit a variable in Terraform, and that stuff gets built out, and all the route tables and routes and all that stuff all get created for you. Those routes get put into BGP, so your data center knows now that we have a new virtual network sitting in Azure, right? So if anybody's interested in seeing how that works, let us know, and we could set up a demo for you. Right. So, okay, so we've created the VPN site. So what now we're doing here is we said the REST API flag is set. So we're actually creating a device backup, full device backup of the FortiGate firewall. All right. All right. So you will see in here, all right, the VPN site is created. All right. So it's provisioned. See, it's not connected yet. All right. Connection failed. And then you can also see here, you have to go out, back in. Showing. Now we're uploading that backup to the storage account that was created by this automation, and now it's configuring the firewall. All right. So it's creating phase 1 interfaces, phase 2 interfaces, static routes, firewall policy, etc. Right. Okay. So it's complete. So if we go into here now to the firewall itself, right, we'll see 2 IPsec tunnels. right? Connected out of my WAN interface up to Azure. You'll see in the routing monitor, right? You'll see now we have BGP adjacency, right? With our virtual WAN segment or hub segment, as well as the VM that's behind it, right? So now if I go back to my data center, now I have connectivity into that machine in Azure, right? All right, so now I'm on that VM in Azure. So now if I want to 10.1, right, so now I have connectivity from Azure back into my data center, right? And then egress is, is normal egress, right? So right, so I also have egress access out. So now you can also see here that we've created some firewall policy as well. Right, so internal to Azure, and then Azure to internal. So that is the bidirectional traffic. Right? We've configured BGP. Right? So there's our neighbors. The remote AS for Azure for 65515. We can see that we've advertised up 172.16.0.0. Right? In Azure, you can see our site is connected. This will take a minute to refresh. Give that a second. And then here, this is the vWAN hub route table. So look at the default route table. And you'll see here, 172.16, which is the data center address, right, is being learned via AS path 64512, which is here. And 172.29 is the virtual network, which contains that Linux virtual machine, and it is being advertised based on the peering connection between virtual WAN and the hub. And the spoke network. Right, and that was all added via the automation. So that concludes the demo. Are there any questions?
And if you'd like to ask a question, you can unmute yourself or put it in the chat if you like. And if there are no questions, that does conclude our presentation and demonstration today.